awake in the dim light of your room, the sun not yet daring to enter. Shadows cling to the corners, thick and heavy, like unseen eyes watching your every move. The air smells faintly of dust and old wood, and a chill brushes your skin, not from the cold outside, but from the weight pressing down on your chest. You move toward the mirror, drawn by a force you can't name, and in its reflection, you see someone you barely recognize. Your eyes search for familiarity, for a hint that the person staring back is the same one who went to bed last night with dreams, plans, and hope. But the reflection is fragmented. Doubt lines your face like tiny cracks on glass. Your shoulders slump. Your mouth opens, but no words come, not even a whisper. It's a face you've known all your life, and yet today it feels like a stranger. Who are you? You murmur, the sound cracking in the quiet room. No answer comes, only the echo of your own voice, fragile and trembling. The room around you seems to shrink. The walls lean in as if to remind you of your limitations. Outside, the faint hum of life continues: cars, footsteps, laughter. But you feel cut off, an observer watching a world that feels both tantalizing and cruelly unreachable. You want to step into it, but your feet feel like they are rooted in doubt, cemented by fear, shame, and uncertainty. You're 15, or maybe 16. You've lost count because the days blend together, each one a mirror of the last: school, homework, fleeting smiles that never quite reach your eyes. At home, your parents try to offer guidance, but their words drift through you like autumn leaves in the wind, beautiful, distant, but not grounding. You've been told you're capable, talented even, but you've never felt it, never truly. You remember last night, sitting alone in your bed, staring at the ceiling, the soft glow of your phone screen illuminating your hands as you scrolled through pictures of people who seem fearless, bold, confident, people who speak and the world listens, people who take risks and fail beautifully, people who shine with a light that you feel you will never possess. You pressed your thumbs against the screen, almost wishing you could disappear into it. I'll never be like them, you whisper to the ceiling. I'll never be enough. And somewhere deep inside, a seed of fear takes root. Fear that whispers you are not deserving. Fear that insists your voice is too quiet, your ideas too small, your presence insignificant. You wrap yourself in blankets, but they offer no comfort. The darkness presses closer, a silent, patient companion that has followed you for years, always waiting, always judging. In this world, you have learned to hide, not out of malice, but necessity. Every mistake feels monumental, every rejection a verdict. You speak softly in class, careful, calculated, each word measured so it doesn't betray your fear. You laugh, but only when others do first. You dream, but quietly, alone, so the world cannot see the fragile hope burning inside you. Yet tonight, in front of the mirror, something trembles differently. A flicker, a whisper that maybe, just maybe, there is another way to see yourself. Not the way others see you, not the way fear and doubt have trained you to see. A way that doesn't demand perfection, that doesn't hinge on applause, that doesn't shrink you into someone safe and unseen. You tilt your head, examining your own eyes, searching for the spark that will one day make you stand taller, speak louder, reach farther. You catch a glimpse of it, a tiny glimmer hiding behind the veil of uncertainty. You blink and it wavers, almost gone, but it is there. The world outside your window waits, oblivious. Trees sway in the wind, their branches scraping against each other in a rhythm that feels ancient and indifferent. Streetlights flicker, casting brief golden patches on the cracked pavement. Somewhere, a dog barks, sharp and fleeting. Life moves without waiting for you, and yet, in the silence of your room, you feel the stirrings of something you've never dared to name. Potential. But potential is a fragile thing. You know it can be crushed under the weight of fear, drowned in a single cruel word, extinguished by a moment of hesitation. You feel it, like a pulse beneath your ribs, and you want to nurture it, but you also fear it. The mirror reflects your hesitation, your uncertainty, the long years of holding back, of doubting, of shrinking. You want to turn away, to retreat to the safety of your small, invisible world, but something else grips you insistently, almost painfully. The reflection stares back, not with arrogance, not with triumph, but with a quiet demand. Will you try? You step closer, hands trembling. You trace the outline of your face with your fingertips, as if by touch you can convince yourself that this stranger is still you. And for the first time, you feel the faintest pulse of defiance. A question that is both terrifying and thrilling rises in your chest. What if I could be more? The answer does not come tonight, but a shadow shifts in the corner of your room, a shadow that does not belong to your body. For a fleeting heartbeat, you feel its presence, cold, patient, waiting. It is not fear exactly, nor doubt, nor shame. It is something older, something that has watched from the edges of your life, gathering strength quietly, something that will not leave you alone. You blink, the shadow retreats, but the pulse of unease lingers, curling in your stomach like a coiled serpent. You sense, with a certainty that chills you, that your life is about to change, that the mirror is only the beginning, that the world beyond your walls will test you, push you, break you, and demand you rise. You do not yet know how. You do not yet know who you will become, but you feel an invisible thread tugging you forward toward a path both terrifying and necessary. And somewhere deep inside, a single thought burns, fragile and bright. I must face it. I must find out if I can stand. The night presses in around you, heavy and unyielding. Outside, the wind rises, carrying a faint whisper that seems almost like a voice. This is only the beginning, and for the first time, you do not step back. You do not run. You only stare into the mirror, knowing that whatever comes next, it will not wait. The morning light slices through the blinds like shards of glass, sharp and unrelenting. You wake again, muscles stiff, mind tangled in yesterday's shadows. The mirror's reflection lingers behind your eyelids, a silent accusation, a reminder that the world outside your room waits for nothing. You lie there, listening to your own breathing, to the faint rhythm of life moving without pause, and you feel a strange sensation, awareness. It begins as a flicker, a subtle noticing of things you have long ignored. The ache in your chest when someone dismisses you, the hollow pride when a compliment feels undeserved, the way your voice falters, not because it is weak, but because fear has claimed it as its own. Awareness is dangerous. It asks questions you are not ready to answer. You rise and wander through the quiet house. The walls are pale, familiar, comforting in their ordinariness. Yet today they feel like a cage. The air smells faintly of breakfast, burnt toast, and coffee, a mundane normalcy that feels alien. Your parents move in the kitchen like shadows of themselves, busy, unaware, voices low. You hear your mother say, almost to herself, "He's growing up too fast, too quietly." And for a heartbeat, you catch the truth in her words. You have been quiet, too quiet. You leave the house, stepping into the streets where life pulses without mercy. Children run past you, loud and careless, their laughter sharp against the dull hum of the city. The sky is gray, the clouds hanging heavy as if weighed down by your own sense of limitation. You walk almost automatically, but your mind churns, picking at memories like a persistent wind. Moments you held back, times you apologize for existing, opportunities you never seized. Why am I like this? You murmur under your breath. No one answers. And yet, the question grows, feeding on itself, gnawing at the edges of your consciousness. Awareness, you realize, is not passive. It is a fire that begins quietly, then spreads, touching everything. You notice your own patterns. The way you flinch when someone raises their voice, the way your gaze drops when someone looks at you directly, the way your thoughts spiral into criticism the moment you try to imagine yourself differently. It is exhausting, and yet necessary. By midday, you find yourself in the school library, the quiet sanctuary you've always preferred. Shelves rise like silent sentinels lined with faces and stories from another world, worlds that are not bound by your timidity. You pull a book from the shelf, its pages soft, the words almost alive. You read about people who overcame fear, who confronted themselves, who became something more than their doubts allowed. Each story etches itself into your mind, planting seeds you do not yet fully understand. One of the passages catches you off guard. You must know yourself before you can trust yourself. The words hang in the air, heavy and insistent. You close the book, fingers trembling slightly, and stare at the ceiling, knowing yourself, trusting yourself. Concepts so simple, yet so foreign, like a language your mind has never spoken. You feel a pang of grief for every moment you doubted, every word you swallowed, every chance you let slip away. And yet, beneath it all, a pulse of hope begins to stir. The library is silent except for the occasional scrape of a chair, the soft rustle of pages. You imagine your own reflection here, not just in the mirror at home, but within yourself. You begin to see your fears not as eternal chains, but as shadows that can be named, examined, confronted. Awareness is terrifying because it strips away excuses, lays bare your weaknesses, but it also offers a glimmer of power. You leave the library with the weight of this new knowledge pressing on you, and the city feels different. The streets are the same, the people unchanged, but you are not. You notice the way someone bumps into you, and instead of shrinking, you step back and hold your ground. You hear a harsh word thrown by a classmate, and instead of turning away, you meet it with silence, measuring, deliberate, unbroken. The smallest acts of assertion feel monumental. As the day wears on, you sit by the river that winds through the city's heart, watching the water glide past, carrying leaves, paper scraps, reflections. Your reflection stares back, distorted by ripples. But there is something different today, a subtle tension, a nascent strength. You notice the tilt of your shoulders, the set of your jaw, the pulse of possibility that hums faintly beneath your skin. Yet, even in this fragile clarity, the shadows linger. You catch glimpses of them in the corners of your vision. Fear, doubt, past failures, the echo of critical voices that will not vanish. Awareness, you realize, is only the beginning. Knowing what changed you does not yet free you from them. It is a map, not the journey. And somewhere beyond the shimmer of possibility, something waits. Something that will test your newfound consciousness. Something that will demand more than quiet courage. Night falls. The city lights flicker like distant stars, pale and trembling. You walk home slowly, each step deliberate, feeling the strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. Inside, your room is as it was this morning, yet nothing feels the same. The mirror watches you silently, and you feel its weight, the promise of confrontation, the inevitability of growth. Before sleep claims you, you lie in bed and remember the book you read. You think of the stories, the triumphs, the quiet victories, and then you hear a voice in your head, low, insistent. You see now. You notice, but notice is not enough. You shiver, pulling the blankets tighter around you. Awareness has come, yes, but it is only the first step. The shadows at the edge of your life stir, not content to wait patiently. Something is approaching, unseen, inevitable, ready to challenge the fragile understanding you've begun to build, and for the first time, you feel a shiver of anticipation, equal parts dread and excitement. The journey has begun, but the true test is still ahead. The first sound you hear is your own heartbeat, loud, uneven, almost violent in the silence. It pounds in your ears as if warning you, as if trying to hold you back. Your hands are cold, your mouth is dry. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings, sharp and metallic, cutting through the air like a signal. This is the moment, the one you've avoided, postponed, disguised as later. The moment where thought must become action, and you are terrified. You stand at the edge of something invisible yet immense. From the outside, it looks ordinary. A classroom door, a raised hand, a step forward. But to you, it feels like a cliff. One move, and there is no going back. Fear speaks first. It always does. Don't. You'll fail. They'll see through you. You're not ready. The voice is familiar, almost comforting in its cruelty. It has kept you safe for years, safe from embarrassment, safe from rejection, safe from being seen. But now, awareness has weakened its grip. You hear the fear clearly, and for the first time, you recognize it for what it is, not truth, but habit. The world around you moves as if nothing momentous is happening. Chairs scrape against floors. People laugh too loudly. Someone drops a pen. Life continues, indifferent to the war unfolding inside your chest. You wonder how many battles like this are being fought in silence. How many people are standing on their own invisible cliffs, trembling, unseen. You remember the mirror. You remember the questions. You remember the quiet promise you made to yourself. Try. The word echoes in your mind like a dare. Your early life flashes through you in fragments, moments of hesitation stitched together into a pattern. The time you knew the answer but stayed silent. The opportunity you let slip because your voice felt too small. The dream you buried because it seemed unrealistic, childish, dangerous. You learned early that starting was the hardest part, that once you stepped forward, there would be no hiding if things went wrong. And things have gone wrong before. You remember the laughter, not loud, not cruel worse, polite, dismissive, the kind that teaches you to disappear. You remember how it felt to shrink inside yourself, how quickly you learned to stay within the boundaries others never even had to explain. Don't stand out. Don't risk too much. Don't begin. But something has changed. Awareness did not come gently. It tore through you, exposing the truth you can no longer ignore. Staying still is its own kind of failure. Playing small does not protect you. It erases you. Your breathing steadies just a little. You step forward. It is a small movement, almost nothing. But the world shifts when you do. The floor feels different beneath your feet, firmer, less forgiving. Your body resists, muscles tight with instinct, but you push through it. You feel exposed, as if a spotlight has found you in the dark, illuminating every flaw, every insecurity you've tried to hide. A voice asks a question, not loud, not dramatic, ordinary, and you know the answer. Your throat tightens. This is where you usually stop. This is where fear wins. Time stretches, elastic and cruel, every second pulling you closer to retreat. You imagine sitting back down, letting someone else speak, letting the moment pass like it always does. But then another voice, quieter, newer. If not now, when? Your hand rises. It feels unreal, like watching someone else do it. A ripple moves through the room, subtle but undeniable. Eyes turn. Attention shifts. The air grows heavier. You can feel your pulse in your fingertips. You speak. Your voice is not as strong as you want it to be. It wavers. It almost breaks, but it exists. The words come out imperfect, uneven, but honest. They land in the space between you and the world, fragile yet undeniable. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the voice at the front responds, not dismissive, not mocking. Neutral, engaged, real. You are still standing. Relief rushes through you, followed immediately by something sharper, brighter, power. Not arrogance, not triumph, just the realization that you survived, that the world did not end, that fear lied. Later, alone, the moment replays in your mind. You dissect it, as you always do, searching for flaws, for reasons to regret it. You find them, of course. You always do. But they feel weaker now, less convincing. Because beneath them is a fact you cannot erase. You started. The courage did not arrive first. It never does. Courage followed the action, not the other way around. You see it clearly now. Waiting to feel ready was the trap. Starting was the key. Days pass. Opportunities appear small, almost laughable to anyone else, but enormous to you. You speak when your instinct tells you to stay silent. You meet eyes instead of looking away. You say no when you mean no, Each act feels like tearing away a piece of old skin, raw and uncomfortable but necessary. Not every attempt goes well. Sometimes your words stumble. Sometimes you are ignored. Sometimes the old shame rushes back, hot and merciless, telling you this was a mistake. On those days, you feel the pull to retreat, to undo everything, to crawl back into the safety of invisibility. But now you know something you didn't before. Failure does not kill you. Silence does. The world begins to reveal its resistance. Confidence, even in its infancy, threatens the unspoken rules you've lived by. People notice the change. Not all of them approve. A raised eyebrow, a sarcastic remark, a subtle reminder of who you used to be. You've changed, someone says, not quite smiling. The words carry weight. Accusation disguised as observation. You feel the familiar urge to apologize, to shrink, to explain yourself back into comfort. This time, you don't. You simply nod. At night, doubt still visits. It sits at the edge of your bed, patient, whispering that this courage is temporary, that you will slip, that the cost of standing up will soon be too high. You feel it pressing against you, testing the cracks. You stare into the dark and realize something unsettling. Starting has consequences. Once you move forward, you cannot unknow what you know. You cannot return to ignorance. The path behind you is closing, and ahead something waits. You feel it in the tension building around you, in the way challenges grow heavier, more personal, in the way the stakes begin to rise. Courage has invited conflict. Visibility has drawn attention, and not all of it will be kind. The mirror reflects you differently now, not confident, not fearless, but awake, standing at the edge again this time of something much larger. As you turn away, the room feels colder. The shadows seem deeper, more deliberate. You sense it, unmistakably. The next step will demand more than small acts of bravery. It will ask you to take responsibility, to choose yourself when it costs you something real. Fear smiles in the dark, because now that you've started, there is no turning back. The sound that wakes you is not an alarm. It is the low, hollow thud of consequence. Something has already fallen, and you are late to stop it. Your eyes open to a gray morning that feels heavier than the ones before it, as if the sky itself is pressing judgment down through the roof. The room smells stale, the air does not move, and for the first time since you started changing, you feel a different fear, one that does not ask what if, but demands what now. You sit up slowly, heart tight, mind already replaying yesterday. A choice you made, a word you said, a moment where you stepped forward instead of back, and something cracked because of it. This is new. Before, fear protected you from responsibility. When you stayed silent, when you hid, when you let others decide, nothing was ever truly your fault. Life happened to you. People disappointed you. Circumstances failed you. You survived inside excuses without ever calling them that. But now you have begun to act, and action leaves fingerprints. The world outside feels sharper today. The streets are wet from last night's rain, reflecting distorted versions of buildings and people. Like a city unsure of its own identity, you walk through it with a strange awareness, every step echoing with an unspoken question. What have I set in motion? Responsibility is not loud. It does not announce itself with thunder or applause. It arrives quietly, like a weight placed on your shoulders when you're not looking. You feel it when you realize that no one forced you to speak yesterday. No one pushed your hand up. No one made the choice but you. And that means what followed belongs to you as well. At school, at work, wherever the stage of your life currently stands, you feel eyes linger than before, not hostile, not approving, aware. You are no longer invisible, and invisibility was easier than this. Someone approaches you, their voice casual but edged with expectation. You said you'd handle it. The words land like a gavel. You did say that, in a moment of courage, in a rush of adrenaline and newfound belief. You wanted to prove to them, to yourself that you could step up. Now the promise hangs between you, solid and unavoidable. I know, you say, and your voice surprises you. It does not shake, it does not retreat. But inside, something twists. Handling it means risking failure. Handling it means owning the outcome. Handling it means you can no longer hide behind uncertainty or silence. If it goes wrong, there will be no one else to blame. You notice how your body reacts, how your shoulders tense, how your breath shortens. Responsibility triggers old instincts, the ones that learned early that being accountable meant being punished. You remember childhood moments when mistakes were met with disappointment instead of guidance, when blame felt heavier than the lesson. Somewhere along the way, you learned that avoiding responsibility felt safer than carrying it, but safety has already cost you too much. As the day unfolds, small tests appear everywhere. Decisions that would have once terrified you now stand in front of you, demanding clarity. You choose, again and again, sometimes wisely, sometimes not, and each time the result follows quickly, mercilessly honest. A plan falls apart because you misjudged something. Someone is frustrated because you didn't communicate clearly. You feel the familiar urge to deflect, to explain why it wasn't really your fault, why circumstances matter more than choice. The excuse rises easily. Then you stop. You see it clearly now. Responsibility is not about perfection. It is about ownership, about standing in the aftermath of your decisions without flinching, about saying, I did this, without adding but. I should have handled that differently, you say at one point. The words tasting strange and powerful on your tongue. No apology wrapped in self-hate, no dramatic self-punishment, just truth. The silence that follows is heavy but not cruel. Something shifts. Respect, maybe. Or possibility. Later, alone, you sit with the discomfort you used to run from. You replay your failures without softening them, without sharpening them either. You see the patterns. You see where fear still interferes, where ego still whispers, where discipline is thin. This is not self-attack. This is self-honesty. And it hurts. Responsibility strips you bare. It removes the illusion that someone else is steering your life. It reveals a terrifying truth. You are not powerless, but you are accountable. You walk home under a darkening sky, clouds gathering low and fast. Wind rushes past you, cold and impatient. It feels like a warning or a promise. At home, the mirror waits. You stand before it longer than usual. You look older somehow, not wiser, just more real. The face staring back carries tension now, not just doubt, but tension of someone who knows they can no longer claim ignorance. You whisper the words slowly, testing them. My life is my responsibility. They do not sound heroic. They sound heavy, permanent. That night, sleep does not come easily. Your mind fills with consequences yet to arrive, with futures branching endlessly from the choices you will make tomorrow. You realize something unsettling. Responsibility does not end. There is no finish line where you get to set it down. This is the cost of growth. And beneath that realization, another truth stirs darker, quieter, more dangerous. If your life is your responsibility, then so are your failures. So are your regrets. So are the parts of you've avoided facing. Something deep inside resists this. A shadow formed long ago, built from blame and fear, from stories you told yourself to survive. It does not want to be exposed. It does not want to be owned. As you lie awake, the room seems to contract around you. The silence hums. You sense that responsibility is only the first pillar, and it is already shaking the foundation of everything you believed about yourself. You feel it, then a coming reckoning, because if you continue down this path, responsibility will demand more than action. It will demand acceptance of your flaws, your past, your nature, and not everything you find will be easy to live with. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance, low and ominous. You stare into the dark, knowing with sudden clarity the next step will force you to face yourself without defense, and some truths do not come gently. The sound that pulls you awake is your own breath ragged, uneven, as if you've been running in your sleep. For a moment, you don't know where you are. The room is dark, unfamiliar in the way familiar places become after too much thinking. The ceiling stares back at you like an unblinking eye, and beneath the silence, there is something else, a low hum, an echo. Not a voice, not a thought, something older, something that knows your name. You sit up slowly, heart thudding, and the weight returns. Not fear this time, not responsibility, recognition. The past few days have peeled you open. Responsibility cracked the shell you lived inside, but now something deeper is exposed. You feel it in your chest, raw and aching, like a bruise pressed too often. You have owned your choices. You have stopped hiding behind silence. But ownership has consequences you didn't expect. It has forced you to look at yourself without armor. The world outside is quiet, soaked in early dawn. The city hasn't woken yet. Streetlights flicker like tired sentries, their glow pale and uncertain. You move to the window and watch your reflection overlay the glass your face mixed with the empty street behind you. It's distorted, split between who you are and where you stand. You whisper, almost involuntarily, "This is me." The words feel dangerous because for most of your life, you've lived as if acceptance were a reward, something earned through perfection, through approval, through becoming less of whatever made people uncomfortable. You accepted conditions, you accepted limits, you accepted versions of yourself that felt easier for others to digest, but you never accepted you. Self-acceptance sounds gentle when people talk about it, like forgiveness, like peace, but the truth is harsher. Acceptance means seeing what you are without immediately trying to escape it. And what you see now is complicated. You see the fear that shaped you, the sensitivity you once called weakness, the anger you swallowed so deeply it turned inward. You see moments where you hurt people not because you were cruel, but because you were afraid. Moments where you chose safety over honesty, silence over truth. The memories don't arrive kindly. They come sharp and sudden, like broken glass underfoot. A friend you pushed away because you didn't feel worthy. An opportunity you sabotaged because success terrified you more than failure. A version of yourself that learned early how to disappear. You press your palm against your chest as if you can still the ache. Why am I like this? The question escapes again. Older now, heavier. This time, something answers. Not aloud, not clearly, but the echo shifts. You go through the day carrying that echo with you. It follows you through crowded spaces and empty rooms alike. People talk, life continues, but inside, you are engaged in a quiet confrontation. Every interaction becomes a mirror. When someone praises you, you feel the reflex to reject it. When someone criticizes you, you feel the urge to collapse. You notice it now, that constant resistance, that internal argument against your own existence. At lunch, you sit alone, watching others talk easily, laugh freely. For years, you told yourself you didn't belong, that you were different in a way that made connection dangerous. But today, the thought feels incomplete. Maybe you don't belong because you never let yourself arrive. The realization hits hard enough to steal your breath. Self-acceptance is not liking everything about yourself. It is not pretending your flaws don't exist. It is standing still long enough to admit they are yours without punishment, without exile. Later, you find yourself walking without direction, drawn toward an old park at the edge of the city. The trees here are tall and uneven, their branches twisted with age and weather. No symmetry, no perfection, yet they stand, they grow, they endure storms without apologizing for the scars left behind. You sit on a cold bench, fingers numb, and let your thoughts surface fully for the first time. You remember being younger, learning quickly which parts of you were welcomed and which were tolerated. You learned to perform acceptability. You learned to edit yourself. Over time, the editing became automatic, unconscious. You forgot what the uncut version looked like, until now. The echo inside you grows clearer, no longer menacing, just persistent. Stop fighting yourself. The words feel like a command and a mercy all at once. You close your eyes. For a moment, you let the memories come without correction. You don't justify them. You don't dramatize them. You simply see them. A frightened child, a guarded teenager, a cautious adult learning, finally, to stand. You feel shame rise, and you do not push it away. You feel grief, and you let it pass through you. You feel anger at yourself, at others, at the years lost, and you do not turn it into self-destruction. This is acceptance. It is slow. It is uncomfortable. It does not feel victorious. It feels honest. When you open your eyes, the park looks the same, but something in you has shifted. Not healed, not resolved, but aligned. For the first time, you are not arguing with your own reflection. That night, you stand before the mirror again. You don't search for confidence. You don't demand reassurance. You simply look. Your face holds history. Your eyes hold contradictions. Strength and doubt share the same space, no longer at war. You say the words aloud, steady and unadorned. I am who I am, and I'm still here. The echo answers softly, almost approving. But acceptance is not the end of suffering. It is the end of denial. As the room darkens, you feel it again. That pressure at the edge of awareness. Acceptance has lowered the defenses that kept certain truths buried, things you avoided, not because they were false, but because they were painful. You begin to sense it. Accepting yourself means accepting responsibility, not just for your actions, but for your values, for what you stand for what you will no longer tolerate from others and from yourself. And values invite conflict. The shadow you sensed before returns, not as fear, but as resistance, a quiet warning that acceptance will soon demand assertion, that knowing who you are will force you to choose how you live. Outside, the wind rises, rattling the window faintly. The echo inside you fades into silence, its work done for now. You lie down, staring into the dark, knowing something fundamental has shifted. You have stopped running from yourself, and that means the world will no longer let you stay neutral, because acceptance is a foundation, and what rises next will test it. Something is coming, something that will challenge not just who you are, but how firmly you can stand in it. In the silence before sleep, one final thought surfaces, heavy and unresolved. Self-acceptance has given you ground to stand on. Now, you will have to defend it. The fire of purpose begins the moment you realize the silence inside you has changed. It is no longer empty. It burns. You wake before dawn with a sharp inhale, as if something unseen has struck flint against your ribs. The room is dark, unchanged, but your chest feels warm, almost painful, like a coal pressed beneath the sternum. For a moment you think it is anxiety, the old companion returning in disguise, but this feels different. Anxiety scatters. This concentrates. It does not pull you apart. It pulls you forward. You sit on the edge of the bed, feet touching the cold floor, and you feel it clearly now. A direction. Not a plan. Not a goal you can explain to anyone else. Just a pull. Steady and insistent, like gravity has chosen a new center. Purpose does not announce itself with clarity. It arrives as pressure, as restlessness, as the unbearable knowledge that you cannot continue drifting without betraying something essential inside you. The city outside is still asleep. Streetlights hum faintly. The sky is a deep, bruised blue. You watch your breath fog the window glass and realize how long you have lived without wanting something strongly enough to risk yourself for it. You wanted comfort, safety, approval. But this is different. This does not ask whether you will be liked. It asks whether you will be honest. You leave the house early, walking with no destination, letting the fire guide you. Every step feels heavier and lighter at the same time. Heavier because purpose carries weight, lighter because indecision no longer drags behind you like a chain. The streets feel altered, as if they recognize something in you. Billboards flash empty promises. People hurry past chasing outcomes they never chose. You see it now. Most lives are lived on borrowed scripts. And suddenly, you cannot bear the thought of continuing that way. Your early life returns to you in fragments as you walk, not as nostalgia, but as evidence. You remember the moments when you felt most alive, even if they were rare. The times you lost track of time because something mattered. The times you spoke with conviction and surprised yourself with the sound of your own certainty. You buried those moments because they didn't fit the version of you that felt acceptable. You told yourself they were impractical, dangerous, too much. But purpose is always too much for a life built on fear. You sit in a quiet place as the sun begins to rise, the light spilling slowly over concrete and steel, and you finally allow the question you've avoided for years to form completely. What do you stand for? Not what do you want to be seen as? Not what would impress anyone. What truth are you willing to carry even when it costs you? The question does not answer itself easily. It burns. It demands excavation. You feel resistance immediately, the old habits tightening, trying to keep things vague. Purpose destroys vagueness. It sharpens everything. You realize that finding it will require you to disappoint people who prefer you unsure. It will require effort without applause. It will require consistency, not intensity. A voice surfaces in your mind, low and familiar, echoing words you once heard from someone older, someone tired. Be realistic. You recognize it now for what it was, fear wearing wisdom's mask. You let it pass without arguing. Purpose does not negotiate with fear. It outlasts it. As the day unfolds, you test the fire quietly. You speak with more intention. You listen more closely to what drains you and what fuels you. You notice how certain conversations leave you hollow, while others sharpen your focus. You notice how certain compromises feel like small betrayals now, burning hotter than before. Purpose has raised the cost of self-betrayal. You can no longer pretend ignorance. Someone asks you what you want to do. The question once would have frozen you. Today, it lands differently. You do not have a clean answer, but you do not deflect. You say, I'm figuring out what matters enough to commit to. The words feel dangerous, real. You see surprise flicker across their face. Commitment intimidates people who survive on options. As evening approaches, exhaustion sets in, but the fire does not fade. It steadies. Purpose, you realize, is not excitement. It is endurance. It is the willingness to return to the same truth again and again without guarantees. It does not promise success. It promises meaning. You walk home under a sky street with red and gold, the light catching on windows like sparks. You feel taller somehow, not in posture, but in presence. Yet beneath the fire, something else stirs, a quiet warning. Purpose draws opposition, internally and externally. The clearer you become, the more resistance you will meet from others, from the parts of yourself that benefited from confusion. At home, you stand again before the mirror. The reflection meets you without argument. You see resolve forming, still fragile, still untested. You speak softly, not as a declaration, but as a vow. I will not live accidentally. The words settle into you like an oath, and oaths have consequences. As night deepens, doubts try new strategies. They no longer question your worth, they question your stamina. They whisper about loneliness, about sacrifice, about how much easier it would be to let the fire die quietly. You listen without surrendering. You understand now that purpose is not meant to comfort you. It is meant to claim you. Lying in the dark, you feel it clearly. Your life is narrowing, not shrinking, but focusing. Paths are closing. Others are demanding commitment. The fire inside you casts longer shadows, and within those shadows, something moves. A challenge, an opposition not yet named. You sense it waiting beyond the edge of this resolve, patient and inevitable. Purpose has lit the way forward, but it has also made you visible, and whatever has been watching from the dark now knows exactly where you stand. The first battle begins not with a scream or a strike, but with resistance, the kind that feels invisible until it tightens around your throat. You wake with the fire of purpose still alive in you. But now it is challenged. The air feels heavier, as if the world has noticed your resolve and decided to push back. Outside, the sky is overcast, low and gray, pressing down on the city like a warning. You sense it immediately. This day will not let you pass untouched. You move through your routine with a strange alertness, like a soldier stepping onto unfamiliar ground. Every interaction feels sharper. Every silence feels loaded. Purpose has changed the way you experience opposition. Before, resistance came as self-doubt, quiet and internal. Now it wears faces, voices, expectations. The world responds the moment you stop drifting, and it does not respond kindly. The first blow is subtle. Someone questions your decision, casually, almost politely. Are you sure this is the right move? The words are light, but they land with weight. You hear the unspoken meaning beneath them. You've changed. You're stepping out of line. You feel the old instincts surge, the urge to soften, to reassure, to retreat into likability. For a moment, your chest tightens. This would be so easy. One sentence could dissolve the tension. One apology could restore the familiar order. You don't say it. The silence that follows is uncomfortable, stretched thin. You hold it. This is new territory. Conflict without collapse, disagreement without self-erasure. Your pulse races not from fear alone, but from effort. Standing your ground requires energy. It burns. As the day unfolds, the battle escalates. Tasks pile up. Expectations rise. You are tested not just in conviction, but in competence. Purpose demands action, and action exposes weakness. You make mistakes. You hesitate. Someone points it out. Not cruelly, but clearly. The words sting more than you expect. A familiar voice inside you wakes, sharp and eager. See, you're not ready. You're pretending. This was a mistake. This is the real fight. You retreat inward for a moment, feeling the fire flicker. You remember how easy it was to avoid this feeling by avoiding engagement entirely. No risk, no failure, no battle, but also no meaning. You breathe through the tension, grounding yourself in the truth you've already earned. You chose this, not because you were flawless, but because you were done hiding. You correct the mistake, slowly, publicly, without drama. Your hands shake slightly as you do it, but you do it anyway. This is not a victory that earns applause. This is the kind that builds muscle, quiet, painful, necessary. Later, the conflict turns inward again. You are alone, walking home as dusk bleeds into night, the city glowing dimly under streetlights. Your thoughts replay every misstep, every awkward moment, every crack in your armor. The old patterns try to reassert themselves, dragging you towards self-contempt. You feel the temptation to punish yourself, to call this day proof that you are not built for this path. But something has changed. You catch the spiral before it pulls you under. You see it clearly now. This pain is not evidence of failure. It is evidence of engagement. You are in the arena, and the arena is never gentle. At home, the quiet is thick. The mirror reflects exhaustion etched into your face. You look older tonight, worn. There is no heroic glow, no cinematic triumph, just fatigue and a dull ache behind the eyes. You wonder briefly if this is what purpose always feels like once the novelty fades. You wonder if the fire will burn you before it sustains you. Sleep does not come easily. Your body rests, but your mind remains alert, replaying confrontations, rehearsing responses, anticipating future resistance. You realize something unsettling in the darkness. This battle was small, necessary but small, a skirmish, and it already cost you comfort, certainty, and peace. What will the larger battles demand? In the quiet hours before dawn, a deeper fear surfaces. Not fear of failure, but fear of endurance. Can you keep choosing this when the resistance grows smarter? When it comes from people you care about? When it costs you belonging? The thought lingers, unanswered. Morning arrives too soon. You carry the fatigue with you, but also something else, a thin layer of resolve hardened by impact. The first battle did not break you, it marked you. You notice it in the way you move now, more deliberate, less reactive. You have crossed a line. The world has tested you, and you are still standing. But the cost is becoming clear. Purpose does not eliminate conflict, it invites it. The more aligned you become, the more misaligned forces push back. You sense it growing already, the resistance organizing itself, learning your weaknesses. This was only the beginning. As you step forward into the day, you feel it unmistakably. The next challenge will not be about action or courage. It will be about comparison, about the way others see you, measure you, rank you, about the subtle poison of looking outward for validation when the pressure mounts. You walk on, unaware of exactly how or when it will strike, but certain of this much: the first battle has been fought, and it has awakened something in the shadows that will not fight you directly. It will try to make you doubt yourself by making you doubt your place among others. The mirror of others begins the moment you realize the battlefield has shifted. There is no direct confrontation this time, no clear opponent standing in front of you. Instead, the world turns reflective. Everywhere you go, you begin to see yourself echoed back through other people's eyes, and those reflections are distorted, sharp, and difficult to escape. You wake with a tightness behind your ribs, a sense that you are being measured even before you step outside. The air feels thinner, as if comparison itself has taken oxygen from the room. You notice it first, in small ways. A glance that lingers too long. A tone that subtly changes when you speak. A silence that feels evaluative rather than empty. Nothing overt. Nothing you could accuse or confront, but you feel it. You are no longer just acting from purpose. You are being watched through it. And the old hunger stirs quietly, dangerously. The desire to be approved of, to be understood, to be seen as enough. The world suddenly feels like a hall of mirrors. Everywhere you turn, there is another version of you reflected back, shaped by someone else's expectations, successes, confidence, or failure. You hear stories of people moving faster, achieving more, standing taller. You catch glimpses of their certainty, or at least the illusion of it, and something in you twists. The fire inside you flickers, not from lack of fuel, but from distraction. You tell yourself you are focused. You tell yourself you are grounded. But comparison is patient. It waits for moments of fatigue, moments of doubt, moments when the scars from the first battle still ache. It whispers softly, convincingly. Look how far they've gone. Look how easily they speak. Look how confidently they move. And then, quietly, cruelly, look at you. You remember how long you lived through other people's measurements, grades, praise, criticism, approval disguised as concern. You thought you had outgrown it. But now you see the truth. Comparison never left. It only went dormant while you were invisible. Now that you are visible, it returns with precision. You walk through crowded spaces feeling simultaneously exposed and unseen. You notice how quickly your mind ranks itself. Who is ahead? Who is behind? Who belongs? Who doesn't? Every interaction becomes a test you didn't sign up for. You catch yourself adjusting your posture, your words, your reactions, not based on truth, but on how they might land. Purpose begins to blur under the weight of perception. At some point, someone praises another person in front of you. The words are sincere, earned, and still they land like a quiet blow. You feel the reflex immediately, sharp and automatic. Why not me? The thought appears before you can stop it. Shame follows quickly after, because you know better. You know this is the trap, but knowing does not prevent feeling. You retreat inward, trying to regain footing. This is not jealousy alone. It is identity confusion. When you measure yourself against others, you lose the internal compass you fought so hard to build. You feel it slipping, replaced by numbers, timelines, external standards that have nothing to do with your values. The fire of purpose dims into a restless anxiety. Later, alone, the mirrors become louder. social feeds, conversations, stories of progress and success, curated into neat narratives. You forget, briefly, that you are only seeing fragments. You forget that comparison edits reality. You forget that everyone hides their fractures. The old voice returns, more refined now. You're behind. You started too late. You're not built like them. The voice does not scream. It doesn't need to. It sounds reasonable, logical, deadly. You stand before the mirror at home and feel its power more strongly than ever. This mirror does not reflect others, but their influence is etched into your expression. You look at yourself and see not who you are, but how you think you measure up. Your shoulders tense, your jaw tightens. You realize with a chill that comparison is slowly turning purpose into performance. Something inside you resists. You remember the quiet strength that carried you through the first battle, the clarity that came from choosing meaning over comfort. You remember why you started, not to win against others, not to be exceptional in anyone's eyes, but to live aligned, to live honestly, to live honestly, to live without erasing yourself. The realization arrives slowly, like dawn pushing back night. Others are not your mirror. They never were. They are moving along their own paths, carrying weights you cannot see, fighting battles you will never know. The moment you use them to define yourself, you surrender your ground. You sit with that truth, letting it settle. Comparison loses its grip not through denial, but through understanding. You see now that confidence without arrogance requires something radical: independence from validation. Not rejection of others, but refusal to let their position define your worth. The next day, you test this understanding. You listen without measuring. You speak without posturing. You notice the urge to compare and let it pass without obedience. It is not easy. The habit fights back. But each time you refuse it, the fire steadies. Purpose clears. Still, the cost becomes apparent. Detaching from comparison means accepting solitude. You will not always feel superior. You will not always feel reassured. Sometimes you will feel small without the comfort of ranking. This is the price of internal authority. As night falls, you walk alone under a sky crowded with stars, each burning at its own distance, its own intensity, none competing, none diminishing the others by existing. The image stays with you, quiet and instructive. But even as you find your footing again, you sense it. A deeper test approaching. If comparison was the external mirror, what comes next will be internal: humility. The kind that strips ego without destroying confidence. The kind that will challenge how you hold your strength in front of others. You feel it waiting beyond the edge of this realization, because learning not to measure yourself against others is only half the battle. The next challenge will be learning how to stand strong without needing to prove it.